Forget, is it? It's the first one.
First one you got for Crystal Palace?
This season, yes. Yeah. I had one disallowed last Saturday, an own goal on Wednesday, and I finished off the week with one in their net.
Fairly reasonable week then.
Well, sort of. Ended well.
How do you remember the goal?
Ball into the box. I think it sort of Henson came off his knee, and I swung my foot at it.
You'd presumably gone up there for the header.
Yes, I had. You make as much trouble as possible in the air and try and pick up scraps if you can't get a clean header. And we did that.
Every emotion that you can feel in a game was out there today. The lads did us proud, didn't they? The crowd came behind in the numbers and everything. Did brilliant.
You must have thought when you were 2-1 in front that you could win it at that point.
Well, we know Liverpool are always dangerous when they're behind, and when they came back, you know, we lifted again, and the set piece and everything were causing them trouble. So every time we had a corner, we knew we had a chance of getting a goal, and which it turned out we did.
But when then the 2 goals went in quick succession, did you really believe you could come back from that?
Obviously, your legs were getting tired and more tired, but we're a side, you know, we've been beaten heavily this season. We've come back from that, and we knew that we could come back from 1 goal deficit.
We did.
Boss is going to say to you now, get back and concentrate on the league, isn't he?
Exactly right, because anything you do in the Cup's a bonus. First division status for us is probably the most important thing, although I'm still... Oh.
You enjoyed your day out today?
Not much. We made hard work of it with extra time, but the result's great. I mean,
the goalkeeper did you a good job, didn't he?
He did, and everyone in the staff's been brilliant. Brilliant. Just wish we can go on and pick the Cup up now.
Why not?
Well, let's see.
Well done anyway. Thank
you very much. Thank you much, gentlemen.
Well done. Thank you.
But who will they be playing? But it was a well-merited victory earlier for Crystal Palace, Jim, didn't you think so?
Yes, it was, and even at half-time we did say it wasn't impossible for Palace to come back and win that game, you know, in our own minds, because they'd made their mark on it, you know, from when they were behind, they still didn't drop their heads, and I must admit that Liverpool also committed harikari in a couple of respects. I mean, I've always supported Bruce Grobbelaar. When others have said that his tactic of coming off the line, you know, can be very dangerous, I said, well, at least his defence knows what he's doing. He always comes. Today, sometimes he came, sometimes he didn't. When he came, he didn't get it cleared. And virtually, that gave Palace a chance, you know, every time there were dead ball movements around the Liverpool goal. Yeah. That was the first point, really, and I wonder whether Bruce Grobbelaar will be in Liverpool's goal next season. That's, you know, he's been a wonderful goalkeeper, much better than he's been given credit for, but I don't know about that. Right. But the manager must wonder about his substitutes. And again, this was something I spotted at the start of the game. The Liverpool managers, Staunton and Venison, were 2 fullbacks. And, all right, so he could cover if he got one kind of injury by pushing Barnes up to cover for Rush, because that was the worst thing that could happen, him lose his sort of first striker. But when that happened, he had no midfield players, no midfield cover, so he was left with an ungainly left side to the midfield. And I wonder whether managers you know, give enough attention to how they pick their substitutes for any eventuality, and especially for Kenny Dalglish.
And in the other end, Nigel Martin earned his fee today, that £1 million plus. He played well, as they've just been saying.
It's a glib thing to say, and it's horrible, but if the goalkeepers had been switched and in the other goals, Liverpool would be in the final.
OK, let's move on to this match now, and they were quite fascinating goals, really, but let's look at the first one that, right, 3 minutes, put Oldham ahead.
Appeals for offside here. Yeah. Of course, at this moment, everybody wonders. There's blue shirts, you know, in the 6-yard box, but you can clearly see when that ball is played, he said you can clearly see it, that you can almost see it, but there is no question that when the ball was played, the Oldham players were onside. And Barrett, that's a fair reward for a fine season for him, because he's a super player for them, and it gave Oldham just the lead they needed.
Another turn-up on the cards at that point, but as you call him, Captain Marvel came back, back in the first team today after 3 months.
He did, and of course this was a touch of class, really, from Webb. Look, just stopped it and flicked it on. Perfectly timed run. That was a quite beautiful piece of football, and the class that exists there in the Manchester United side today, and returned to it, Webb and Robson, came off for them. I hope it comes off for England in the World Cup.
Sure. Well, fascinating second half to look forward to then. Let's rejoin Barry.
Yes, the second half of Manchester United's 18th FA Cup semi-final, and the second half of Oldham's second. The only previous one was back in 1913 when they lost to Aston Villa, having beaten Manchester United en route to the semi-final. Final check of Joe Worrell's watch. Are we to get decision in the next 45 minutes? Or will there be extra time in this one as well? Webb. And Barlow. Ince. Robson. Tried to get the right weight, didn't quite give it enough. Pass was intended for Webb, trying to return the compliment. Set up Webb, having set up Robson for United's goal in the first half. Away by Martin. Free kick against Hughes. And I wonder, Trevor, what the managers would have been saying at half-time, because Joe Rowe must feel his side have played very well. Alec Ferguson probably feels that his side didn't play that well, and yet it's 1-1.
I think, as you say, Oldham, Joe Rowe would have been the better pleased, and I thought they finished the second half very well, and then Manchester United sort of Webb there playing through, and Robson coming back into the team, gradually edged their way back into the fray. I thought Paul Ince played well in midfield, and sort of the back four had an edgy start, didn't they? The equaliser settled those down, and certainly probably now, as I say, it's been important to gain the initiative early in this second half of one side or the other.
Referee had a quick word with Ritchie. Gets the ball well, beats Robson. And Marshall in need of quicker feet. If Marshall had not been Marshall but Ritchie, which of course would have been impossible because Ritchie passed in the ball, but you get what I mean. Ritchie's moves his feet rather more quickly and might have got in there, but Marshall, the taller fellow, found it much more difficult.
To be fair to centre-back really most of his career, and then this season, because of injuries, he's pushed up front. He had a really purple spell, didn't he, during the cup run, and really has kept his place up there.
Leclerc, Webb, cover again by Barrett. He and Milligan, the stars of the Oldham show in the first period. Marshall. It's too far because Holden had already come in and indeed was nearer the striker of the ball than was Ritchie. Support making themselves heard. They were given 18,000 tickets, Manchester United 27,000, reflecting the difference in size of the average gate. Oldham's 18,000, really satisfying. Just about everybody. 27,000 obviously not for Manchester United, a total satisfaction. Henry and Ince. Henry played it out. Instantly on to Hughes. Barrett at his back, and with a little nod. Good turn by Ritchie. Needs support. Having waited, didn't find the pass he was looking for. Redfern. Ritchie just got a touch, but no more. Hughes has had to wander lonely. Barlow. Good support from those who've come from the town on the edge of the Pennines. Offside flag. Kick from the wrong place and a slightly disjointed start to the second half. 5 minutes of it have elapsed. Bruce finds the right blade of grass. Barrett beats Hughes in the air again. Ritchie holds it up, but Redfern had not made the run, and Ritchie was caught by Bruce, whose challenge was late. Few boos for Bruce, but I don't think they'll trouble him too much. Bannister with Marshall. Oldham feeling together. Ritchie and Bruce. Marshall. Robson who got it clear. Good play by Milligan. Oh, his save! That was brilliant, and his foot was taken away by Ince. What a good little player this, I suppose we have to call him Irishman now.
I don't know whether to suggest to Jack Charlton he should pick him, because they'll make it that much harder for England, but he certainly had an excellent season and competing very well today.
Comfortable for Leighton. Milligan, in fact, was born in Manchester, but parental Irish connections. He's quick, he's skillful, and he's very competitive. Marshall stole half a yard. Lee Martin, the youngsters who came into the side last season and has kept his place. Some people would suggest he's been the most consistent player in the United side this season. Owen, Robson, Barrett. Well played by Redfern. And he felt it, but couldn't see where it had gone. Won by Holden in extremis. Marshall went offside for a second then. Gibson. Leclerc on the touchline. Webb inside and he's offside. And the Oldham back four played that very well indeed.
Again, the offside, they do hold fairly flat line, Oldham. It just got caught out once, of course, Ryan Robson with his equaliser. And it's just a case of just timing the run again at the right time with Manchester United. Want to make a breakthrough. Although, of course, without Danny Wallace in the front line, they do that little bit of pace that they perhaps have in other matches this season.
Danny Wallace, in case you've joined our coverage late, is one of the two Manchester United substitutes. Leighton asked to do a lot, but did it without due alarm. Barrett seemed to come off the hand of Henry, but inadvertently, says Mr. Worrell. Barlow. Holden hasn't had too many runs at Phelan, whose main preoccupation has been making sure he knows where Holden is. Bruce didn't make it. Milligan, goal kick. Milligan felt that he didn't have a clear view of the ball. Won by Holden. Milligan. Holden. Held off by McClare, quite fairly. Well, he mishit the pass. That was intended, I think, not for Martin, but for Hughes. Of the second half. No addition to the score. And Oldham still shading it on the balance of play. And Hughes changed that. Webb, Robson, long way for Phelan to go, and Robson checks out and goes the other way. And then plays it to a more static Phelan. Ince. Barlow came off Holden, and with the use of the hand, Manchester United have the free kick. For which Pallister starts coming forward, and Marshall returns to the old role there, the number 9 in blue of central defender. Too short from Phelan. Set pieces haven't really been very good for Manchester United. And Ince is in trouble, and Ritchie was too eager.
Paul Ince tried to ruffle Andy Ritchie's hair and found himself in trouble there, didn't he?
I would have thought there was a danger of a splinter. Here they are, having a little swing around each other's neck. I suppose you might say Brian Clough would have approved. Barrett underneath it, came off the shoulder of Hughes. Offside against Holden. Webb and Holden. In comes McClare, away by Milligan. Martin, useful. Robson asked a bit too much of Martin. Marshall. Bannister. By Holden. At the moment it's a game poised and not quite sure where it's going. Barrett. Had to win that then, Barrett, because Hughes would have been away had he not done so. Milligan, Henry, rather telegraphed the pass. Holden, Henry. Similarity between the two little fellows at the centre of the midfield for Oldham. Here's Henry. Slightly confused by Marshall, I think. Hughes prepared to go again. Barrett goes with him. Crowd get up and complain. For me, Barrett performs another very fine piece of defensive play. Ritchie. Not a good first touch that time. Hughes. In for McClare, and again Oldham would have been in trouble had that got through. Instead they have a free kick.
Yes, if that had gone through, McClare was clear. But Mark Hughes getting a bit frustrated because Earl Barrett's had an excellent game. He and Milligan have been outstanding for Oldham.
Well won by Redfern and claimed by Jim Leighton. had two-thirds of the 90 minutes. 1-1 the score. Henry. Redfern. And I suppose, Trevor, normally one would say that the longer it goes on, the more experienced team would be fancied. But at the heart of that experienced Manchester United team, there are two players who haven't played very much first-team football.
Well, it is a problem with Webb and Robson, but, you know, there's another man there as well, Colin Gibson, who only came back last month after 18 months out. I'm sure Danny Wallace will come on this half. It's just a case of which one of that trio will be the one to make way for him.
Here's Marshall. Good save and a very good shot. Good cover by Bruce. Hit that very well indeed. Was just sufficiently far ahead for him to thump it, and it had some venom and was well knocked down. Jim Leighton, steely eyes. And the reflex is sharp, might have to be again. Calmly played by young Martin. Marshall and Leighton are both down in the area. Left knee as far as Marshall is concerned. Somewhere around the middle as far as Jim Leighton is concerned. Good play by Martin at the end of all of that. Goalkeeper had to come for it.
Great ball from Andy Ritchie, and it was one of those, Jim Leighton being a bit cheeky there, but yeah, it was one of those that when it came across, Jim Leighton had to come, as you say, for it. Ian Marshall dived in, and neither of them actually touched it, but they just collided. And I think it's Ian Marshall came off a bit worse with a rap on the knee. Jim Leighton looked to be the only thing he damaged perhaps was his shorts.
Nice handshake. The atmosphere's been good between the two sides. It's been a competitive semi-final that's had some very good moments. I was asking a lot that it should live up to the earlier one of the day, but it's making a gallant effort. Free kick against Marshall for the challenge on Ince, and Ince again complains. It would be a shame if his talent is stifled by his temperament. Alec Ferguson having a few words with the linesman. Oh, Ince wanted it square then and didn't get it. Redfern. Good way to ball up to Marshall. Bruce holds off the challenge. Finds McClare. Robson and Holden having a wrestling match down the middle. Holden hasn't had much change out of Phelan. What will Webb get out of Holden? Hughes is in the middle, two others coming up, covering header from Barrett. Ritchie. Palliston. Sudden increase in pace. Ince. Ince complaining at Martin. Arm up by Henry. United's free kick. Gibson. Ince. Webb. Looked like a little bit of a nudge, but the referee will have none of it. Ince the first to complain. Webb was waiting for it to come down. And was challenged. Mr. Worrell had a very good view of it. Martin, who played the ball in, And there looked like a little nudge there by Barlow on Webb. Manchester United have had one penalty all season, and that was in the opening match, and John Lukic saved from Brian McClare. They haven't had one since, which is quite amazing. That incident in the 65th minute of the match. The one here, I mean, not the one against Lukic. Marshall. Where did he come from? Free kick for the challenge by Colin Gibson.
Certainly that penalty decision, I've seen penalties given for less, that's for sure.
Owen with a kick. Met by McClare. Holden. Ritchie didn't make it. The whistle had gone. The whistle had gone. Oh, a little bit of pushing, I think, by Ritchie. That would really have rubbed salt into the wounds, because it did seem to have a pretty good case for a clumsy challenge by Barlow on Webb, but Mr. Worrell had an excellent view and decided against. Shadow of the main stand creeping across the ground. Good ball by Ince. With the spin very sharply. McClare finds Webb. Good attack. 4 up for Manchester United. Good claim by Holworth. Robson and McClare end up in the goal. Oldham come away with the ball. Holden. It's been pretty quiet, really, to tell the truth. Ince. Showing good pace. Handball by Barlow. He's played well, has Paul Ince, but he's inhibited himself, in my view, by a few too many words. But at least this time he's smiling. Holden's header. Marshall was the player in the sandwich. And a foul by Henry, but the referee played a good advantage. Barrett out of it, and Gibson, the flag is up on the far side. That's one of the few occasions that Barrett has been left, and the decision for offside was pretty tight. Ritchie trying to come in, Leighton didn't come out. And Phelan did it well. May have been too far for Leighton to come. Holden. Oh, it's superbly done. Holden has not shown Phelan a clean pair of heels at any stage that I can remember. But this fellow, just one mistake just a few seconds ago that I can remember. Barlow. Not too much more than a hopeful prod forward. Hughes getting ahead of Holden. McClare, Webb. Seems to be a growing influence. Here's Hughes. Owen just got a foot in. It's a good challenge by the fullback. Pallister. Ince. Robson. Ince. Martin. Everybody in red is to his right. Barlow only down to Webb. It's Robson who tried to find. Could be a break here. This is Redfern. Ritchie far side, Marshall far side as well. Redfern, he lost control then for a minute. Comes to Ritchie. And they look at Redfern and say, why? They had a real chance if Redfern had done precisely what Ritchie was